Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all well. Can you see my screen and am I audible? Kindly confirm. Okay. So we're just going to begin on our today's lesson. Okay. We're supposed to complete something on yesterday's work. Most of you sent the assignments. Thank you for that. You did a great job. We did also some correction on the same, so just in case you didn't know how the assignment was going, you can reach out. We were doing the insert of the values in at least 10 responses or rows in each of our entries. That's on our entry. We had 10 rows. We said there are 10 rows or records or tuples. Those are our entries. So today we are going to insert as well, and then we're going to learn how to auto increment as others. So auto increment generally is where you want to basically generate a value automatically. For example, when we were dealing with ID numbers, you can have them generated automatically. That's if they are following an order, and of course the way on how you go about it, just in case you want to skip some values. Yeah, like the pattern following when you are keying in or you are auto incrementing. On that note, having some background on my side. It's heavily raining, so I'm not really sure whether I will have to do a class recording. Yeah, so just kindly follow up on our today's lesson. If I will be in a position to record tomorrow, then I'll do that. Otherwise, just know that there's some background noise. I'm recording, but I believe it won't be that much clear, so that will lead on the same. Okay, so let's go to SQL. So this is basically yesterday's work, what we covered yesterday. I should be able to share the same. Yeah, I'm supposed to share this as well, the script. I don't know why am I having this in attachment. I don't know. Oh, okay, I remembered something. I'm supposed to also share some work, some data sets, but I believe we should be using it today in a few, so I'm so sorry for that. So let me just show it in a bit. Because it may take some time. I don't know whether when I share it here everybody will be able to receive it, so you can let me know in a bit. I'm sharing to the mail that I shared lesson 1 notes. Let me attach a database. Let me confirm something here before I share it. Okay, this shows I'll be copying to one person, so Let me recopy your names from these points. Okay. Sorry for this, I should have shared this way earlier before the class, but I was just a bit held up, so just bear with me for now. And the data set is employees, so I believe it will take a while. I don't know how long it will take, so let me just wait for upload on this, then because we will basically require So I've shared the notes and the documents, so kindly check and download, and especially the database. I really need it. So let's begin on our today's lesson. So as I've said, you're going to start under auto increments, how we majorly generate. But before that, let me add the insert of yesterday's assignment. So you were supposed to insert values on a student table. So what you do, you just type insert into, as we mentioned yesterday, insert into, then the table name, then we have values, because what we want to key in is values. And I said the value and the values literally works almost the same. I haven't seen any challenge in working either with value or values. So, and then you start your entry at that point. Yeah, so you can have ID number 1, we have name, So string, we said you put them in quotes. That's first name and then last name and age. Yeah, you encross and then you add a comma, open another bracket, so you're able to in the entry of the second person. Okay, and the list continues. The only thing you're supposed to make sure is after the entry of the 10 responses, you have make sure you have ID from 1 all the way to 10 consecutively. Then you close with the semicolon and you execute. So you are supposed to do that for 10 responses or 10 rows. That's on yesterday's one. So as I've said, today we're going to be covering on how to add the auto increment function. So I think it would be better if I add it just below here on the same create command. I can just add a comment. Okay, yesterday we saw to add a comment. Let me increase the size of my screen, sorry. That's better. So this was one way of adding a comment, and the second way, as I indicated, is you start by a slash, the bent one, then asterisk, and then you can type your comments. So auto increment. So that's our today's topic. Auto increments. Then when you're using this slash and asterisk to type your comments, it's majorly used when you are writing a long sentence, especially when we come to using questions where we type a long sentence. It's pretty much easier to use the slash and asterisk, so that once you've written the sentence, probably it's 2 or 3 lines, at the end you close by the use of the asterisk, then slash, so that you close the comment section. Otherwise, if you don't close, any other lines that follows is treated as a comment, and definitely you don't want that. Yeah. So we're just going to create a table and add auto increment into it. So using the create command. I hope you can hear me. Just in case, you can let me know. Okay, so create table, and we can create a table for, let me just call it class. Then we have the columns, so we can have ID, and this is an integer. I hope you're able to identify integers and characters and how we go about it. So this is an integer. We have name, okay, let me just type it as first name, first underscore name so that it don't exist as a function. This is a variable character. And anytime we're using variable character, we make sure that we indicate the length of the name, then age, which is an integer, then you close. Yeah. So am I missing something? Oh yeah, the error I'm getting here is because I didn't add a closing semicolon here in line 23, which I said it affects the following line. So yeah, so we're creating a table called class and has these columns: ID, first name, and age. So what happens, we have to, if we want this to be auto incremented, yeah, I believe it should be a primary key, but let me confirm that. So I'm just going to type auto increment. I want ID to be auto generated. Yeah, so we have auto increments. Am I typing it correctly? Yeah. Auto increments. Okay, I was missing the underscore, so it's auto, it's a one word name, auto increment, not two separate words. Yeah, so the ID will be auto generated, and before auto increment, I wanted to confirm whether you can work with auto increment when it's not a primary key. But definitely it should not repeat itself. In most time when you're auto incremented, it follows a sequence of numbers. Yeah, then we have first name and we have the age. So let's try insert into the class table we generated. Semicolon, insert into what could be possible? Insert into class values or value. I want us to add some entries so that we see what happens. And then open the case. But there's a problem before this. You can't just insert into values Yeah, you can't just insert into values, especially when you're working with auto increment. Remember, we said when we are inserting, we follow the order of our column, how we enter the column. But bearing in mind, we don't want to add the ID number. That means we insert into class, and we specify the columns you want to insert. Like we have to identify to say that we want to insert into class, that's first name and age, so that the ID won't affect our work. So let me just have some entries so that I can show you how the error comes. Let's say we have first name and age, so I'll just have the brackets, first name, age for the first person, then we have comma, entries of the second person, sorry, and age, entries of the third person, and that's from sorry, and age. So let me add 2 more people. So you can add just 1 more person. And semicolon. So these are our entries. Having an error, insert into values, first person, single person, 24. Yes, Michael. Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you. So that was the error. So I'll start by creating the table. So I have to execute first line 26, and remember we're executing the second execute tab. So I'll click on that. I'm having an error, so let me just resize this, and the error says no database selected. So I haven't selected in database. So we said you can either run the command line use and then the name of the database. We're using the class database, so you can run the command line use class and you close that, or we said you can just double click. So I'm just double clicking on class and it's now selected, so I can execute in 26, and now it's successful. You have created the table class. When it comes to insert, I've said, as you can see, we are entering Lucy, age, name and age, but in our create table we need to add ID, first name and age. Yeah, so we are missing something in our line 27. So let's see the error in line 27. So I'll just execute it, and the error is column count doesn't match values, doesn't match value count at row 1. So that means we're missing something. And the major thing we're supposed to do is, before you key in the values, you indicate the columns that you want to enter. So I just open a bracket there, and then I'll type I want to add first name column. So I have first underscore name, sorry, comma age, just that. What will happen is SQL will read that we are keying in first name and last name, but now as indicated in our column, ID will be auto incremented, auto generated. Yeah, so let me execute it once more. That's line 27. And you can see it's successful. Yeah, so yeah, you can see it's successful. So we can have a view of our class dataset. So I'll just select all, and all we said using asterisk. So select all from class, because that's the table name. Class, remember we have class schema and we have class database. So your table we just created, so we want to get it from class. Now the table, you close and execute, and these are our generated values. We have the ID was auto generated, we have first name, and we have our age. Yes, we can close the results. We have the default. Okay, should have added this on the query on the table just created. When we said about default, remember we mentioned default as a constraint as well. What happens is you give a default value to be generated when you are if in your insert you're missing something, or somebody didn't indicate the entry in certain column, so you can use default on the same. I remember I didn't show you how to add a column. We are doing that in a few, so I'll just go back to the table. For example, we have insert into, we have the first name all the way to age, but probably we wanted to have something such as the unit that these students are taking, right? And the table is already created. Remember yesterday when we talked about alter function, and we said we use it to modify or make changes to an already existing table, and that's what we're going to be doing. So we want to alter the current table, yeah, that's table class, and we want to add another column to it, let's say the unit. Yeah, so how you go about it, you just run alter commands, alter table, and then the table name. The table name is class, and what we want to do is to add a column. Yeah, we want to add a new column, so add, then the column name we want to add is unit, and this is a variable character because it's a string type of data. We are having the length of 100 because you must identify anytime you're creating a table you are adding, you must make sure, yes, we are adding it, but it doesn't exist, so you have to specify the type of data type that column you are adding is. Yeah, so again you add our entries here, but now we want to set something. Yeah, let's say we want our column to be having a default value in our entry. Yeah, so we can have it as default. If anyone or a person doesn't identify the unit they are doing, we can have a default output. Let's say unidentified. You just make sure you enclose that in quotes. Yeah, so if we added this column in our entry here, we would just have to, after age unit, it's a variable character, and the length, then we say default for that entry and the output on the same. I hope that's clear, just in case you can let me know. So we are modifying or making changes to an already existing table by use of the function alter, and what we are doing is adding a column, and we are adding the unit column. It's a variable character, and we are setting the default value for null responses to be unidentified. So I'll execute that. Okay, let me run line 28, select all from class. You can see we have the ID, first name, age, and unit. And since we haven't added anything under the unit, the default value is unidentified. Yeah, and this is what will happen anytime you have some entries in the insert and someone didn't give their responses. Of course, let me show you something. Okay, let me close this. How we go about a person's response to whereby they're missing something. Yeah, so I'll just insert. Let me copy line 28, not 28, 27, insert into class, and we're inserting first name, age, and the entries, but we'll add something. So let me see what happens here. So we're going to be inserting first name, age, and unit, so comma, unit. Under the value area, we are having name, we are having age. Probably the unit for the first person wasn't identified. How to go about it? You can add a comma and then enclose an empty area with space. Yeah, or you can just place it. Let me have the second person. Let's say statistics. Then enclose it. I just click enter after Jesse, and then you can add a unit for Dennis. Just add a comma. We have data science, and lastly, what happened to my last person's page? Did I delete that? Oh, I did copy, I guess. Okay. I'm missing a lot. I will have to do. So data science, I'll just add it here, a comma. And the units, and the last person was Angel. Sorry, I didn't copy that, so I have to type it again. Angel, edge, and lastly the unit. Let me assume that person didn't respond to that. So those are our entries. So you can see we're having a missing entry for Lucy. We have a missing entry for Angel. Another thing, we are entering first name, age, and unit, and none of this is a primary key or a foreign key or unique. So that means we're going to have a duplicate of what we earlier had. That's why I copied. We're going to have a duplicate of all these entries, which will not replace the first one. So we had 1 to 5. I believe we should have from now 6. Lucy, the Lucy here with an empty name category should have ID number 6. So let me execute this, and then select all from class. Okay, they came as empty spaces. Okay, I guess it's because I'm closed. So what if I just add a space that way? I thought we should enclose the space, but that's not the case. Okay, let me execute that. I'm having an error. Can anyone help me identify the error? I can't really see. I don't know whether this is the issue. The space I added here, the comma. Okay, let me just leave it as such. I just didn't add anything for the first person and the last. I thought adding the quote would help, but that's giving just an empty entry. I'll execute again, line 32. Okay, that's leading to something else. I'm having an error again just because I missed the following column. I don't want just an empty space. I just want okay, let me should you not use values instead of value? I say they are similar. They aren't the same. You get the same output when you use value. I've used value before. I've used values in our yesterday's lesson. You can see in line 27 we inserted by the use of value. So I believe value and values should just give the same output. They are similar. Let me see. Okay, the error is that I haven't added anything for this person, so I have to add something. I'm not really sure. Okay. Then closed space is just giving an empty column, so that's messing around. So So probably I should just check on something. You see, when I type or run an query whereby I'm putting the quotes, the entries in our output is giving this space. I don't want space. I want the output to be unidentified, because we indicated that the column entry should be unidentified. Because probably I should check on something at that point. And because the unidentified we got earlier on was just after creating, because it was empty. So I'll look onto that. Otherwise, that's how we add the auto increment and also the default value. You can have any default name, just enclose it in quotes. Yeah. We have the updates. Update is used to update an entry, changing the existing record in a table. For example, if you want to change someone's name in the current entries, and we're going to use our column ID. ID is a primary key, so every person has a unique ID number. That's why when you select to see the entire table, you can see we have a repetition of names, repetition of age and units, but there's no repetition of ID number. So these people are treated as different people, whereby each of them holds a unique ID number. So we're going to be using ID number to identify each of the respondents. So to update, we're just going to use the update function. So we have update, the table is class. You have to specify the way you are updating, and then we want to set first name here, where first name is Lucy. This you're not going to set for this ID. This is ID number around 15. This Lucy here, because we have ran the same column a couple of times. So let me just run again. You can see we have Lucy ID number 1, Lucy ID number 6, Lucy ID number 11. So either way, you have to know the ID number of the respondent you want to change the name. So update class, set first name, first underscore name to be equal to, in quotes, Charlene, yeah, where we use where to filter, to filter out the specific person. Remember, we have a number of Lucy's. So where do we want to change our name? Yeah, and we want to change first name to be equal to Lucy. Where, let's change for the first person, first Lucy, whose ID is number 1. So we're going to have where ID is equal to 1. So what happens at this point is, when you're filtering, you can only filter with a primary key column in most cases. Otherwise, you might end up with an error. For example, if you try to filter out with age, you'll end up with an error, because you have age and a unit. So the column you're filtering with must have must be a primary key, and a primary key is saying it's a key that, or a column that is uniquely identifying each respondent. So let me close command line number 32 with a semicolon, so that I remove the error here. So I'm updating the table class, and I want to set first name to be Charlene, where ID number is 1, and then close that. Yeah. So I'll just execute it. It was successful. So let's see what's the name of the person whose ID is number 1. So I run again, select all, select asterisk, which I said it means all, from class, and you can see the first ID is no longer Lucy, but now it's Charlene. So you update a column or the name of, or if you can change also the unit, you can change the age, you can update, because for example, if we record this table for now, then later on in future this person will be 24 probably anymore, so you'll need to maybe update on the same. Yeah, so you should go ahead and use the update function to update your table for your entries. Yeah, the other way is the rename. We have the rename when you want to rename either a database or a table. But before I rename, what if I want to delete a person's entry? I've updated ID number 1. Yeah, if I want to delete, again you go through the same steps, but now you'll be using the delete function. So we have delete, and we say delete, we use it to delete rows and records. If you want to delete a table, if you want to delete a constraint, if you want to delete a database, you use drop. So delete, then the table name, so delete from class, and we have said where is for filtering, where you can use ID number or first name. So I use ID number where ID is equal to 2. So I'll be deleting Jess's entry for the unidentified unit. Delete from class where ID number is 2. Okay, I run select all, select asterisk from class, and we no longer have ID number 2 because we deleted it. So that's how we delete. I was talking about rename. If you want to rename a table, to rename a database, you use the alter. Again, you alter table, you can alter database. Either way, you'll be in a position to make the changes. So you have alter, the table. If you want to alter a database, you just type alter database. So alter table class, where, sorry, not where, alter table class, and rename to probably classes. Alter table class, rename it to, and I'm renaming it to classes. This is where you want to rename it. You can alter table if you are you can alter database if you want to change the name of the database from class to probably a different name. You just use alter. If it's a database, you have alter database. If it's a table, you have alter table, and then the name you're giving to it. I hope we are clear to that point. Is there any question? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So to our today's lesson, that was a bit we left it yesterday's on lesson 2. So we have the ER diagram, and the ER diagram is used to understand how is the relationship between tables. Remember yesterday when we were doing about the foreign key and the primary key, the foreign key is usually the most common links between tables, and I said for you to extract data columns from two different tables, those two tables must have a common column, as we are going to be seeing in a bit. So ER diagram is stands for entity relationship, and entity relationship diagram, and it's an entity relationship model that describes the structure of a database. In most cases where you find the structure or the ER diagram, it will be always having the title database structure or structure of the database, because basically that's what an ER diagram is. On that note, we're going to be generating an ER diagram. In association, we'll be having also the ER model, because the ER diagram does not exist on its own, so you'll have the ER model besides it. Yeah, we have some symbols that represent our data set. So we're having the rectangle that represents an entity. For example, when you talk about students, yeah, and entities is an object in a real world with an independent existence. It does not depend on anything for existence, with an independent existence. We have the ovals represent attributes. Remember we said attributes are characteristics, and again these are our records in a database. And lastly, we have the relationship between them will be identified by this shape, diamond shape. Yeah, so I already shared the data set, believing that you have downloaded it, because we're going to be using it. It's database already created and contain everything. We're going to be going through it again just to have a view of how it looks like. So you can save the changes we have made. Just go to file and click on save. Just save, because you already saved it. I want to use this second file. It should be second, so I'm just moving it. You hold on where we're having the name SQL file, you drag it from one point to another. So I want it to be the second slide in my list. So this is how, of course later on we're going to see how to import dataset, and but for now we're going to be opening it as an SQL script. Go to file, open SQL script, and then locate it where you downloaded it to, where you stored it after downloading. You go to file, open SQL script. I've said you go to file, you open SQL script, and the other way to go about it is just below the file area we have edit, just below edit, because we say the first one, the first shortcut, that's SQL folder that has a plus, is for adding a new SQL query tab. It adds a query tab. But now the second SQL that has a folder like icon just besides it is for opening again an SQL script. You can click on that, it takes you to your computer. The last way to open an SQL script is under the area where we are having our execute commands and other commands. You can see the first icon here, this folder like, is for opening an SQL file in this editor. Either way you'll be able to open an SQL script. So if you click on it, again it takes you to your computer. So I'll just locate my data sets, that's employee data sets. Is there anybody having a challenge in downloading the file? Just in case. Yes, Benson? Okay, you're not supposed to open. Let me show you something. I don't know how the message is appearing on your side, but I'll try. Apart from, you see where we are having this folder, if you can't download it at this point under downloads, you can just click on this small icon showing you just the employee SQL. Yes, yeah, you'll be able to download it at that point. So I've said we go to SR file, we have open SQL script. So let me locate the employees dataset. Once you locate it, you click on it, then click open. Employees, you select it, and then you click open. This is the database. Don't execute anything, just let's go fast through it, and as I mentioned some few things, and then I'll show you again how we're going to be executing it. So we have from line 1 all the way to line 22 is a comment. Remember, we have said we add comments by using the two minus signs and then a space. You're able to add the comment. And the alternative is where we use the slash and the asterisk. So these are comments, just the disclaimer, the copyright information, and all about the dataset. Then from line 25 is the commands. So the first command line is drop database if it exists, that's employees. Remember yesterday I said you can't create a database, a duplicate database. So every database must have a unique name. For example, in our schema we have a class dataset. If you try to create a database called class, you get an error because you should not be able to create a duplicate on the same. Then again, that's why we start by, in most cases, dropping, just in case it existed, so that it is deleted. Yeah. So then we have, and if it doesn't exist, then this column will not, it will not have any effect. Then we have create database if it does not exist, if not exist. So we are now creating it. Then this is a most important part, the use employee. If you don't run this, then you'll have to again resurrect. You unless you run create database, you double click on it. But now we're not going to be running the codes line by line. You realize that this file has a lot of entries, so you can't run line by line. So if you miss this, anytime you execute the entire document, you'll end up with an error. So you must have this. Then we're having the drop tables if it exists, all this. Or we have select this for creating data structure as what, that's info. Then we have drop the tables if they exist, and then create them. So from line 41 we're having the creation of the tables. So you have create table, table name is employees, and has these columns: employee number, birth date, first name, last name, gender, hire date. And as you can see, employee number should not be null, birth date also. All these columns must not be null, they should not be empty. So every person must have an employment number, a birth date, a first name, a last name, their gender entries, and also the hire date. Yeah. As you can see, the hire date is a data type, so it's indicated as such. We have gender, it's a combination of two, so we don't have one entry on the same. Then employee number, employment number, again it's indicated as a primary key. Yeah. Just to mention something again on the gender, this doesn't limit you to entering male and female one at a time. whereby, let's say we say we're having a gender column, then we have male in quotes, maybe the full name in caps or lowercase or a combination of both, or just the letter, you can go ahead and do that. Yeah, when you indicate it as a variable character, again it will still you'll have also your entries in your data set. The other table for us is just the same. Here we have department number, we have department name. Yeah, department number is a primary key of the department table, and the department name, every department name should be unique. It's a unique key. I want us to see the foreign key. So create department manager table. We have our employment number here. Remember, employment number is a column name of the employees table. That's the first table. Here in the employees table, we have employment number, which is a primary key of this table. So when we having employment number again under department, it exists. This is what we call a foreign key. It's a column from another table. It will help us refer back to the employees table. So you can see we have a foreign key is employment number. It references us back to the employees table. That's the employees column. One of the most important part here is also the or delete cascade. You'll find it in most of foreign keys because they're referring to other columns. It helps if the primary key that they are referring, for example in this case, if this employment number in employees table was deleted, or the employees table was deleted entirely, it won't affect the department manager table. That was the major need of on delete cascade. Yeah, so you see that most in foreign keys. So I'll just scroll to the entries. So this is the first insert into employees table, and then we have the values, and it runs from employment number, birth date, first name, last name. We have gender and the hire date for each of the respondents. So we're going to have a long entry because there are a couple of numbers. So let me try and scroll with this to be a little bit fast. As you can see, we have a lot of entries. So you may be asking whether you sit down and key in the entries of such. So in most cases it is easier because every company has database which was created just at the beginning, the time it was started. So probably in most cases in old companies or earlier companies, the database already exists. So the only thing they're working on is modifying, updating and such. But for example, if in the same organization that has a database, a department was created, yeah, that did not exist, it will be given a new management, new people into it. So you'll need to create now a table. So this is long, I don't know how I'll go about that. Let me try this way. I want us to see the second entry of the table. I can use the scroll bar again, but in most cases when you use the scroll bar you miss the entries of the second table. So okay, Okay, that's so slow. Okay, as you can see, I lost it, so I don't know whether I should just scroll at this point. It's also a lot, but we're just having what follows is just insert of the second table, nothing much. That's the department table. Oh my god. Okay, you can look at your free time. Probably it's hard really to identify a specific entry whereby the inserts begin. You either lose the previous one or not literally get the second one. So okay, that's on the inserts. You can scroll little by little, but because of time we're going to be taking a lot of our time at that point. But what follows generally is inserts of all the tables, from insert in employees, insert in the department table, a lot of them, insert in the department manager, and all the tables that we have seen on the beginning of our creating the tables. So their inserts is what follows. Yeah, so once we have been able to go through the table and understand it, or if you are creating the table and we have created and we have keyed in all the inserts, remember we have two execute buttons, the first one and the second one. We are not going to be running using the second one because we don't want to run a code, our code line by line. It's a lot. Yeah, so we're going to be executing with the first execute button, which will execute everything in this SQL file. So use the first flashlight icon, that's our execute, the first execute button. Just click on that. It will take a little bit while, so just give it time for it to load and everything to be executed. So just be patient with it. Okay, it's taking quite sometimes. and everything has been executed. So if we check on our results output, the output area, we will see a lot of successful. Let me just increase the size of the results tab. So as you can see in the output, we have a lot of all the executions that are not done. Most of them were successful. The only thing apart from successful ones is a warning. Yeah, and a warning is having a danger icon other than a tick. For example here, yeah. So otherwise everything else was successful. On the output, we say that create the structure as info. That's why we end up with this info. That's how the structure if you check on the first few lines of this employees database, we had this create is on select creating database structure as info. That's what after at the end of it we're getting the results as info. So you can close it, both of them, that we just have the output window and we also have our query tab. So that's how we open an already existing file in SQL, and we have opened one, we have executed it. So we have now a database called employees. Of course you can see it's not visible in our schema, and just as we previously did, so that you're able to see it, you need to refresh the schema either by right clicking refresh all, or just beside the schema area to the right we have this 2 motion like icon. You can click on either of the you can use either of those 2 ways and you'll be able to refresh the schema. So let me click on here, and as you can see, so let me minimize the class. You can see we have 3 databases class. We created employees, we just opened, and then this is that was previously here. Yeah, by default, even without as you can see, there is none of this that is selected, but we ran an execute button that said use employees. So if we run extract or modify anything, we're going to be modifying all the details that are under employees, because we ran use employees command. Otherwise, maybe later on whereby you won't be executing, you can either use run the command and use employees, or double click on it so that it's highlighted. Yeah, so you can expand again the employees so that you can have a little bit view on the same. Yeah, okay. So we have a drop down to the left, expand on that. You can see we have tables and some views. Just expand on tables, and these are our tables. So we created department employee, department manager, employees table, salary and titles table. Yeah, again you can expand, for example, on departments, and if you want to see the columns in departments, you can click on columns, and you have department number and department name. The alternative to that, other than expanding all this, especially on the table name, if you select, for example, on the name department, just click on it once, lower, just below the area where we're having more information, that's the section below navigator. We have information. You can see the table selected now is department. It has these columns, department number and also the department name. Yeah, if I click on department employee, again it changes. The department name is department employee and the column, and of course it shows you the data types on the same. So we're going to be using either of those ways to just have a view of our data set and as we work with it. So to begin with is how we create the ER diagram, and I see the ER diagram is going to be helping us understand how our tables are related. Yeah, so you're going to be seeing later on extraction, when we're extracting columns from different tables, we'll see how we go about that, because we really need a link between them for us to use a function such as join, as we're going to be seeing. So how do we create an ER diagram? Yeah, to create an ER diagram, you go to the server or database. Yeah, we have database. That's on our file tab. We have file, edit, view, query, and the database. Click on database. We have reverse engineer tab. Kindly follow this closely, because in most cases when you're working with SQL, you'll be needed to show the structure of the database. So go to database, reverse engineer, click on it, and there's a pop-up window that opens. Yeah, by default, without even editing anything or adding the datasets and such, on our home area where we had local instance, so we have the home icon that takes you back to your connection area. We have the current connection we're using is local instance, and then we have my SQL model. This will always create, anytime you're creating an ER diagram, you'll have my SQL model, because we saw that an ER diagram is an ER model database that shows the structure of the database. So you'll always have the model itself. To the pop-up window, we have a few things that are very necessary. One is the stored connection. Yeah, I'm using local instance at this point where I imported the data, so I'll make sure I'm not using root. So I have to click on the drop down to the end and select local instance. Most of us may probably have just local instance, but for those who manage to add a new connection, you'll have your probably the stored connection pointing to one of the connection. Otherwise, the local instance is the one we're using. So once you change that, I'll make sure that it is by default. It might be it, so you don't have to change. Yeah, you click next. Yeah, on the lower section, just click next. You'll see execution complete successful, fetch finished, so just click next. Here select schema that you want to create a reverse engineer with. You want to use the employees, so you have the class we created, but we don't want to use that. We want to use the employees, so just check the box before employees and then click next. A retrieval completed successfully. Once that's done, click next. You can let me know if I'm too fast. Yeah, and then we have some changes we need to make sure here. That's under select object to reverse engineer. So we have these two areas. The checked one, that's import my SQL table object and import my SQL view object. We don't want to use the view, we want the table object. In fact, if you check, we have 6 total tables on the import my SQL table object, and we have just 2 on the view. We don't have 2 tables in our employees database, we have 6. so we definitely need the import MySQL table object. So just uncheck this box under import MySQL view object. We don't really need that, just uncheck that. Yeah, more adjustments on the same. On this area of import MySQL table object, we have the show filter. Yeah, show filter. Click on that to expand the table object area. And I want to explain some more points here. We have the first box that contains all the names. We have the employees, indicate the database or the schema. Then we have the table names. So you have department, department number, department manager, employees table, salary and titles, all of them coming from the employees table. We have the right table that is empty. So this is what happens. Probably you want to create a data structure and you want to exempt or to leave out some of the tables. You don't want them to be included into your ER diagram. So you can move it to the right. This is how you go about it to remove it. You can see this is 6 objects. These 6 total object, 6 selected. I've selected the department and I'll move it to the box on the right by the use of this greater than point here. You select and move it to the right. On the information just below the area, we have 6 total objects and now we have 5 selected because we moved 1 to the right. To take it back, you just select it again, but now you'll move it back by the use of this less than. This is greater than to move it to the right. The less than tab, use it to take it back. And now you have 6 total objects selected, and then 6 selected. The last section to that is when you want to move all of them, if there are a lot of them, and you want to select them, add them one by one to this point, to the selected area. So just click on the double greater than pointing to the right box, click on that, and everything is moved to this box. So we have 6 total objects, 0 selected. Alternatively, you can now, if there are a number of them, this could happen only when you have multiple tables that you couldn't select one by one, moving them to the removing them from the ER diagram. So you can now select one by one and move it to the right by the use of this arrow. Otherwise, we have this double less than pointing to the left. If you click on that, everything on the light box is moved back to where it was. So I'll click on that and now get my data back as the way it was. So that happens when you have multiple tables and probably you want to leave out some of them. So I'll just hide filter and you can see we have 6 total objects, 6 selected. In most cases not necessary. If the tables in your database we want to create a database an ER diagram with all of them, you can just leave them as per. You click execute, just click execute so that the ER diagram is created. So we have operation completed successfully. Then you click next. 6 table from schema employees have been included. So then once that's done, just click finish, and this is the ER diagram. On other words, you can call it the database structure. So I'm just scrolling to the right. Sometimes you might not be seeing it, it might be down there. So you can see the scroll back to the right, just scroll it so that you're able to see it. Okay, these are all the tables, the 6 of them, and how they are connected. So I'm putting my cursor just under the department manager table. I want us to see some of the associations. So we have I can't see really any. We have increment number. Okay, before I see something, all these tables, the way they are aligned, it might be different from your side. You might be wondering why is the top table is titles, whereas probably yours is a different table. It's because they're not fixed at one point. You can move a table, for example department employee. I can move it from that point to this point. Why is it connecting to that point again? Okay, yeah, you can move the tables from one point to another. Just hold your mouse, drag the table, yeah, and you can realign them again. It's just the way you want them to be. Yeah, so just move them around so that I'm able to see every or each line from where it's coming from to where it's going. Yeah, so I'm putting my mouse under the department manager table, and one thing you'll notice, we are having this green line is indicating the connection between the tables, from department to employees table, then we have from department again to department manager. What that's telling us is that these two tables are related because both of them has a common column. For example, we have employment number in department manager, and we also have employment number in employees table. We have department number in department manager table, and we also have department number in department table. Yeah, so if I want to extract, let's say the department, the employees number and their department, I can do that from in the department name. I can get that from the department and department manager. Yeah, then let me go to titles. The titles table is linked to just the employees by the use of the employment number. Yeah, on departments it's linking us back to department manager and department employees. Salary is back to employees number, and department again from department to employees. So once you just putting your mouse on the name of the table, you're able to see the link, and you can see, for example, employees number is having the primary key, that's employment number. We have it in titles, we have it in department manager table, we have it in salaries and department employee, but we don't have employees number in department table. So we're going to come on how to go about it. If probably I want to extract the name of a person, that's a first name, last name, and their department name, the department they're working. How do we go about it? Yet we don't have a link between them. They're not having a common column. We're going also to see how we go about it. Of course, we can do that by the use of department manager table. That's one alternative, whereby we link from employees to department to department manager to department. I think also the department table, department employee. Now that's showing us that we can link from employees, department employee, and then to departments table, and you'll be able to extract all the columns you want. You might be in fact want a column from employees table, a column from department employee, a column from the salaries table, and this a column from different tables. So we're going to be using join, and one of the thing we're going to be looking is the common column between the tables and how we go about that. Are we together at that point, or is there any question? Okay, I hope you're all together at that point. So I'll just go back to my query area. So on top where I read about the MySQL model, we have the ER diagram, we have MySQL model, then local instance. Just click on local instance so that you're back to the query tab. So definitely you have to have a new SQL query area, which we're going to be using in our next line of extractions. Yeah, so the first thing to this point is, that's after the ER diagram, once you've generated the UR diagram, that means you have been able to understand your data set. We have the SQL clauses, and there are 3 of them. We also have the where clause, it's also a part of it, the one we have been using earlier on. We have the group by clause, we have the having clause, we have the order by clause. We group by to group rows that share a property so that the aggregate function can be applied to them. Remember, note this, we use group by to group rows that shares a property so that aggregate function can be shared, can be applied to each group. So aggregate functions such as the sum, the count, the average, the minimum, maximum, all these are aggregates. And anytime you use an aggregate, in most cases you must use the group by clause. We'll see what happens if you forgot or you miss out the group by clause. We have the having clause. It selects among the groups defined by the group by clause. So again, having, it can exist on its own, but in most cases it comes after group by, where you say group by this number. Having is used for filtering. Yeah, for example, if you want just people whose salary is greater than this, use having other than where. Remember, I've been using where because you can say where salary is greater than. But now with the group by, where we're having aggregate, the alternative to that, we use the having. You can't have where clause after group by. On the other hand, we use the having clause. We have the order by. It specifies an order in which the returns, which to return the rows. You can either order in ascending or you can order in descending, which is mostly the last case in our analysis. Yeah, that's the order clause. Okay, so let's go to our SQL so that we're able to apply the clause we just talked about. Let me use one of which it contains all of them. For example, if I want to extract the average salary, if you go back to lesson 1 notes and look for in our common or the queries, or rather the functions, the command line we're going to be using, such as select, we said select is used for extracting. So we already have the database. We're going to be using select. From this point henceforth, we're going to be using most cases select. Okay, let me just add a comment here. I'll say SQL clauses. Okay, let me increase the size again of my screen. So I've added SQL clauses as a comment, and I wanted to extract. Anytime we're extracting, that means we're extracting from our already created database, so we'll select. So select, and we want to select columns. Remember, I've been using all asterisk, but we don't want to get everything. We want a specific column. So select employment number. I'll be selecting the average salary, so just to click on salary so that I'm able to see the columns there. We have employment number, salary, from date, and to date. So I'll select employment number, _number, comma, and salary, and not just salary but average salary. So I have to type average here. Average in this bracket, you want the average of the salary, not salaries. Salaries is the table, the column is just salary. So select employment number, comma, average salary, from the salaries table, salaries is the table. You can see it's written TABL for table on the pop-up. So select employment number, average salary from salaries. And because we have said that average is an aggregate, so if I close that with a semicolon or execute this line, I'm getting an error that says in aggregated query without group by. So anytime you aggregate, it's necessary to add the group by clause. So I'll just click enter, or let me show you something. I'll type group by, it's a keyword, and we're going to be grouping by employment number, emp underscore number. Let me close that or execute. You can run without executing as well, and remember you're executing with the second execute button. So this was successful, and you can see we're having employment number and average salary. I just want to show you something that I forgot to show you. So we're getting the output. Of course, you're going to have some more additions to that. If you have a long sentence or a long line of commands, remember about the beautifier I already mentioned in the class. Yeah, we're going to use that. The only thing you do is select the line of command you want to beautify. Yeah, and then you click on that. So let me just complete my line of, was not complete. I want to add the group by, the having, and such. So we have group by employment number. Then what follows is the having, and we said having is used to filter. Yeah, so I'll just say having, having salary, in this case average salary, let's say greater than 100,000. So having average salary, we're not calculating average again. The average salary I'm typing is exactly what we have here. We grouped by employment number, and the employment number we selected it. So you can't group by a column you didn't select. Again, it happens to the having clause. So salary. So let me just scroll for now to the right before we beautify. So having average salary, I'll just add my mouse to the right, greater than, by the use of greater than sign, at 120, 123. So what will happen, we're just going to have the list of employees whose average salary is greater than 120,000. Having I've said is the same as where. For example, if I could say where average salary is 120,000, but now we can't have the where clause after group by. The having clause is it's not used after group by, or neither is it used in aggregated query. So on the alternative to that is the having salary greater than 120, and the last part is to order. We can order by in ascending or descending. Yeah, so we have order by, employees number, emp underscore number, let's say descending. Descending is just DESC. It's complete. You can see I'm having an error. This comma here before order by, it shouldn't be there. So let me just beautify so that you're able to see the query complete. So I'm selecting the entire line 2 from select, and then I'll click this broom-like icon just above, or in line with the execute button to the right, where we have this icon. I hope you can see my mouse. You click on that, So I just click on it and alignment is done for me. I hope you can see. Let me just space one here and also increase the size of the query area so that's visible. So you have select. This is what the Beautify does. One, it capitalizes all the commands, all the keywords, and it aligns your work in this manner. We have select, employment number, and average salary. This is what we are selecting: employment number and average salary from salary table. Then we are grouping by employment number, and the reason we are grouping, remember, we have aggregate. That should be in your mind that whenever you have an aggregate value, you must have group by. We're grouping by employment number, and employment number again we selected it. You can't group by, let's say on the salary table you have columns such as from date and to date. You can't group by these columns that you didn't add as a select on the select statement. Yeah, so we group by employment number, having average salary greater than 120,000. So we'll have only the entries of people whose salary is greater than, average salary, sorry, is greater than 120,000. Then we have order by employment number in descending from the largest to the smallest. So you can put your mouse anywhere in this, from select to the where we are adding our semicolon. Yeah, you can put just your cursor anywhere and then you execute using our execute button. That's the second one. It's running and it is successful. So let me increase the size of our results grid. So as you can see, we're having two columns. In our select statement, we selected just two columns: employment number and average salary. So we have employment number and average salary. Yeah. Then the entries, there we are. You can see under average, we're having our average salary greater than 120. I don't know the order here. Now again, on the employment number, we are running from the highest. The largest person employment number here is 200, 625, 109. So it's reducing as you go down. We're having from the highest employment number to the lowest employment number. That's descending order. Yeah, I hope that's clear. I want also to add some information on the same. Just minimize the results grid. As you can see, we have employment number and average salary. Why is the name of this column that's giving the average? It's the function. It's just similar to the function. We just typed AVG salary and the column name is AVG salary. Yeah, so I want to show you how to, if you want to add, to give it a name. For example, a name, not a function. You use as function. So we have average salary. That's under select. We are in select employment number and average salary, and we want to give a name to the average salary. So I'll just add the function as after average salary. Let's say I'll just call it average, but now average underscore salary and not a function. AVG underscore salary. So with the as function and the name I've given, what will happen, where I'm having AVG into bracket salary, the name won't exist as a function. It will be average underscore salary because we have given it now a name. So let me re-execute the command line again. And now you can see we have an employment number and we have AVG underscore salary as the column name. Yeah, anytime you run an aggregate, you can always give your aggregate a column name by the use of the as function. Are we together? Hello, can you hear me? Okay. So that's on the first select. Thank you. That's on the first select statement, and we have used a combination of all the function. But you realized from the first case where I executed without the having and cross, it means you can have group by without having cross. The same case, you can have having cross without group by. Yeah. And order by, of course, it can exist on its own. So I'll add a different function. Let me execute this and see. Let me check on something again. I've executed the same similar command. Okay, if you look on the average salary, in our average salary, that's employment number, the average salary has 4 decimal places. You can see, for example, the first employment number here is the salary is 123,850.3636, 4 decimal places. Yeah, you may not be okay with 4 decimal places. Probably you want to reduce them to 2, to at least 2 decimal places. What you do on the query tab, I hope this won't complicate your work. Okay, let me recopy this select statement, copy and paste it down here so that we don't read it much on the first one. We're using the same select statement, but I want us to have a difference at this point by reducing our decimal places. The same features or the adjustment, we're going to make it where we typed average salary the first time, because remember the average salary in having is what we have here. Yeah, on the other hand, because we gave the average salary a name, that's avg underscore salary, you may choose to say having avg underscore salary greater than, because the column exists, unless at some point, just in case you get an error, use the function itself so that you don't end up with an error. So this is why we're going to use the round function, and then you indicate the number of decimal places that you want to use. As always, the round off is what is used to round or to reduce the number of decimal places. So I'll add here, just before average salary, round is a function. Here it goes. Okay, let me type in caps. Let me just type it in caps. Round. Remember we said round in caps and in upper is one and the same thing. So you have a round, open the bracket, average salary. After average salary closing bracket, you add a comma and indicate the number of decimal places you want. Probably we want 2, and then you close the bracket we opened after the name round. So we have round, select employment number, then the second column is average salary, and we want it rounded off to 2 decimal places. So round bracket, make sure you enclose the same, a comma, then the number of decimal places you want to have. Let me execute that. Remember we had 4 decimal places and we want 2, and as you can see we have 2 decimal places. If you want 3, you just add 3 where we having 2. If you want 1, you just add 1 where we having 2, and you're able to have rounded the decimal places to the length that you want. Okay. The other thing is that's on rounding off. I'll give you some assignment again. Okay, let me use just a simple function here. I'll select the first name and last name and remember we have last name and first name in employees table. We have first name and last name in employees table. So as I'll select first name and last name from employees, and then I'll order by probably the first name. So select. Apart from using the beautifier, the alternative is how we have been going about it, by clicking enter. So select first underscore name, comma, last underscore name from employees table. I'll just hit enter at that point. Select first name, last name from employees, and then I'll order by first name, first name. What happens if I don't indicate descending? By default it will SQL will order in ascending. So if I have order by first name, I'll add my query there, but what will happen, the order by will happen in ascending by default. So let me execute. So we have first name, last name, and you can see we are ordering by first name. It's running alphabetically from A downwards. Okay, and we have a lot of A. Okay, you can see our entry is limited. Let me show you what's causing the limitation. So as you scroll, you realize we had a lot of entries, but we have just a few, and in fact we just have the A's. The reason is, I'll take you back to where we are having our SQL query. Yeah, our SQL query area where we're having our execute button. I hope you can see this limit to 100 rows. That's on my side. I don't know on your side whether it's a limit to 100, and then drop down. Yeah, so what you'll do, just click on the drop down, and then you select probably the entire, or you can just choose don't limit if you don't want any limit. And let me re-execute the same. Select first name, last name, and now let me scroll again. I believe it's not limited, and you can see we have A's, we have some B's, D's, blah blah blah, according to the name order. Is there any question? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, that's all for today. You can reach out in case you have a question. Just a minute, I give the assignment. What you're going to be doing, specifically, to be aggregate. Okay, this is the assignment you're going to be working on. I'll just get it from okay, you can write it somewhere. Extract employment number, minimum salary, increment number, and you can use and minimum salary. Yeah, extract employment number, minimum salary, and then you order in descending order. And definitely when you see salary, you know you're extracting from the salaries table. Okay, I believe you have the data set, so I'll just type it as a text in the group. All you need to do is check the message. I've said I'm sharing it as a message in case it's not clear again. You can reach out. So it's extract employment number, and minimum salary. In descending order. Okay, I've shared it. So that's it for today, unless you have a question. Otherwise, have a nice evening. Yes, Belinda. Yes, Belinda. Okay. Yes, Heini. Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Yes. You go through the same. Yeah, you just go to file, save as, and give it a name. Yeah. I remember someone. Okay, thank you. I just remembered I had someone who had an issue with the view. Okay, let me just save this. Again, I'll be sharing the, what do we call it, the query tabs, the command lines.